Hey, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Beth from LinkedIn? Okay, earlier I had some audio problems, so thank you.
Hi everyone, we're going to start the webinar shortly. If you have any questions today, you can submit them via the Q&A option on our webinar, or you can email them to info@outforundergrad.org. We're going to give everyone a few more minutes to trickle in, so we'll be starting probably around 5:35. Hi everyone, we're going to start in about 2 minutes. And just as a reminder, please email your questions to info@outforundergrad.org during this webinar. All right, everyone, we're going to start our webinar right now. First, I'd like to introduce you to everyone on the line. We have Brandon, our Executive Director, Beth from LinkedIn, Arching from OUBC, Justin from OUEC, OUTC, sorry, Logan from OUEC, and Lucas from OUMC. So right now, Brandon is going to give a brief intro and welcome all of the students.
Hey everybody, thanks to those of you who joined tonight, and thank you prospectively to those of you watching this on the internet at a later date. I am really excited to welcome you to Out for Undergrad for the 2015 conference year. At this point in the year, we have admitted almost 500 students to our 4 conferences across 4 different industry groups. We have our business conference, serving students who are interested in careers in finance and consulting and professional services. Our technology conference, serving students who are interested in the technology sector and careers in software development. And we have our 2 new conferences, the Out for Undergrad Engineering Conference for students interested in careers in engineering, and our marketing conference for students interested in working in marketing or advertising or for consumer brands or in the retail space. And so I'm really excited to welcome all of you. You represent an incredible, incredible group. Our mission at O4U is to help high-achieving LGBT undergrads reach their full potential. And you all were selected because we believe, as a group, that you possess enormous, enormous, incredible potential. And so tonight is just the first small part of our effort to help you fulfill that potential. So we hope that tonight is fun and that you learn something and get to know a little bit about us and the work that we do, and maybe pick up a few tips along the way. As Amy said, please feel free to ask questions. You can email them anytime to info@outforundergrad.org, and Amy and I will see them, and we'll have time for Q&A and a discussion with the panel after Beth's presentation.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon. So we're really fortunate today to have Beth, who's a sales product consultant from LinkedIn, give us an awesome presentation on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. I actually heard this presentation at the Lesbian Who Tech conference, and it is really awesome, and it's going to provide you a lot of value to using and leveraging your online presence. So during Beth's presentation, if you have any questions that come up, just email them to info@outforundergrad.org. I'm going to pass it over to Beth now.
Great, thank you. Are you guys able to hear me okay? Great. Okay, I'm going to do my best at sharing my screen in just a moment, but I want to thank everyone who has joined, and especially Out for Undergrad, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all. I know in terms of being in college, and whether you're looking for an internship, or even if you're about to graduate shortly and looking for a job, our LinkedIn platform is, I wish I had LinkedIn when I was in college or when I was about to graduate, because it is amazing. And the fact that everything is at your fingertips, and all the tools that are going to help you really be successful within being a college student and after is all there at your fingertips. I want to make sure that I'm able to pass along all of this great information to you, so going forward you're able to even be more successful. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And hopefully you guys can see my screen there. So that's me. A little bit about me. I'm in San Francisco with LinkedIn, and even I've been with LinkedIn almost 4 years. And prior to that, I was in the mobile phone industry, or the wireless industry, at companies such as Singular, AT&T, and Virgin Mobile, and now have landed an amazing job at LinkedIn, thanks to networking, being referred, and knowing people, which LinkedIn has helped me do that. What I'd like to do is, give you some tips, first of all, on really how to rock your profile at LinkedIn. So the first piece is really looking in terms of your actual photo on LinkedIn and your headline. So let's dive into a little bit about your photo and your headline. So think about it. LinkedIn, it's not Facebook, right? So you really want to make sure that you have a photo that really represents who you are, and it's high quality. A statistic I like to share is that your profile will be 7 times more likely viewed if you have a profile photo. And one of you that is you alone, not a photo cropped out at an event or anything like that, but a photo of just you and being professionally dressed. And the next piece here really is your headline, and that's that piece that shows right below, next to your profile photo, and right under your name. And really your headline, it's the first description that people see when they look at your profile, and really make that count. Good headlines are really clear. They're confident, and they use terms that people search for. So here, for example, make your headline really descriptive, like you see here, entry-level creative professional, or finance major seeking investment banking internship, because as potential employers or recruiters pull up your profile, they'll automatically know your name and really kind of what you're looking to do in terms of that next step. So that's the first tip I have to give you in terms of a really good profile photo and a good headline. So let's go to tip number 2, and this is where it's all about developing that professional summary. And your summary is that section right on your profile at the top. You can I would suggest ordering at the top of your profile, because this is really going to give you your readers a little bit more information about you. I like to say, this little yellow sticky here is, thinking of your summary like the first few paragraphs of your best written cover letter. So if you think about it, a LinkedIn profile is a lot more than a resume. It is your professional record. It's your professional brand, and a way that you can extend yourself, not from a personal level so much, but now this is you professionally. And you all are in the process of developing your professional career. A lot of you probably have great volunteer experience, summer jobs, internships, things that you've already been involved with, potentially even in high school. So you want to start showcasing this right here on your profile. And your summary, this is where you're really able to tell a story. So, you can really win points with employers for your enthusiasm about the job you want. So, for example, you might begin your summary with, I'm a budding journalist who can hit the ground running in a newsroom. So don't think that your summary, also, I do get that question, especially when I spoke at the Lesbians Who Tech conference of, do I have to really come out and be, known as LGBT in my summary? Some people are very comfortable with that, especially if you're maybe an LGBT leader in your university, maybe different groups and so forth, but don't think of it as a place where you have to do that. There's definitely other places within your LinkedIn profile, such as maybe you're volunteering, maybe you volunteer for several different LGBT organizations. You're part of Out for Undergrad. Maybe it's the causes you care about. So it is one place where you can do that, but also you can leverage your summary really just to talk about yourself, some of the biggest experience you have, and it's almost, again, like the big elevator pitch or place that you can really shout out who you are and what you have to offer before someone really goes down into your profile. So the next piece is education. So that's going to be like the third biggest piece here in terms of your LinkedIn profile. And this is where you really want to, starting, you could even start with high school or even really into college. List all those educational experiences you've had, even including summer programs. Say, for example, you studied abroad, things like that. I know from I used to manage our sales team here at LinkedIn, so I hired people right out of college, especially for our business leadership program. And one of the pieces I looked at as a hiring manager was really not just, we do look, at the school someone went to, but really for your volunteer and leadership experience. So you really want to also highlight a lot of that experience here right within your profile to show how you've been a leader, potentially any types of additional study abroad, courses you've taken, because that really does show that you're well-rounded and have that leadership potential. So, make sure that you include every type of school or education that you've been able to go to. What better place to highlight your accomplishments than right here on LinkedIn? So here's where maybe you have any specific projects, or again, leading an assignment with school, or a big, huge project that you've worked on. Maybe you're an engineer and you've built some apps. Highlight this on LinkedIn, and even if you have something that you can link to, add that within your profile. This is a really great way, without someone having to speak to you first or having that interview. It's almost like they know a lot about you right here and some of the successes that you've been able to do. And also, I like to say, don't be shy. This is a great place to show off your GPA. I know all of you have outstanding SAT scores, and even like honors and awards. So be sure as well to highlight that on your profile if you haven't already. So the next tip I have is really highlighting your experience. And this is, again, showing your career trajectory, and even a career from, when you're in college and even after. So as you graduate, continuing to update your career. But, these are the jobs that you've held, whether they're, part-time, maybe they're an internship that you've had each summer, but show those positions that you've had. These are just some really great examples of, an internship that someone had at eBay or at Apple. Also, even if you weren't paid for a job, be sure to list it. So volunteer experiences, and be sure to place those on your LinkedIn profile. So just like your schools and all the clubs and everything you've been involved in, also these types of other positions, internships, and so forth are really going to show all the different pieces of your history. So those are the main pieces from a profile perspective. There's a lot more information on LinkedIn, and especially I'm going to point you all to a site where you can get even more, but I think these are the top 5 pieces of a really good profile and starting out from a college perspective. So the next piece, and I think this is really what most of you probably want to know a little bit more about, is how do you get connected and how do you get your career going? I get asked that question a lot, especially as I do sessions like these for, when college students come into LinkedIn, or maybe I'm working with, on the side for some other projects. I really get these questions asked, even from people that are already in the workforce. How do they leverage LinkedIn to really get to that next level? So the first thing I can tell you about is really building your network. So if you don't have a network, think about having a Facebook page with one friend. How great is, you might as well not even be on Facebook if you just have one friend or two friends or three friends. The same goes with LinkedIn in terms of building out your professional network. So think about this, grow your professional network by sending connection requests and personalized connection requests to everyone you know, from your friends, maybe there's family members, neighbors, your teachers, your professors, people at maybe your internships. Send those type of connection requests to them because you're going to start being able to build up your network. And again, instead of using that generic, I'd like to add you to my professional network, tailor each request. Remind the person how you've met him or her. Explain why you want to connect, and they'll be more likely to respond. 70% of jobs are really found through networking, and once you connect, send that customized message to, even to say you're job hunting. Ask for advice, ask for an informational interview, or if they know anyone in your desired field. So, connecting one-on-one will really be able to show others, they'll want to make that effort to help you. I know that, I went to the University of Georgia, and there's been several times where I've received a connection request or an in-mail message from a current student asking me, hi, I see that you work at LinkedIn. I'm really interested in potentially, pursuing an internship with LinkedIn, or what's it like to work there? And I can tell you 100% of the time, I respond and I get back to that person because, number one, they went to my school. I really want to help students at my university where I attended to help them with their career. And then a lot of times I do connect with people, especially students that are really looking to grow their network as well. So that's one tip of just really starting to think of ways to build your network. I mean, who knows? Your next door neighbor could be the head of, engineering at a tech company that you really never even knew about until you connected with them. Aside from building your network, I think the next piece is really asking for recommendations. And asking for recommendations, this is where you can really allow people, aside from sending in your resume and saying references available upon request, here it is right on LinkedIn. This is a way to get people, again, maybe it is a classmate, or maybe it's some, a professor that you've had, a mentor that you have, a summer internship, things like that, or people in those types of positions. Ask them to write a recommendation because that's a really great way to show your credibility and the type of work that you've done and the value you brought to those people and to those companies. So I would say the number 2 tip is once you've started building up your network, start reaching out to people. I would say have no less, I tell people this all the time, no less than 5 to 6 recommendations on your profile and at least 2 recommendations per position that you've had. So this piece here about finding the ends where you want to work. This is 2 ways. So on LinkedIn, there are university pages. So if you pull up your university, here's University of California, Berkeley. People that have said they've gone to Cal, there's 286,000 people that said that they attended University of California. And thanks to our database and all of the information we have from people's profiles, we can tell you where they live, we can tell you where they work, how you're connected. It even dives into types of positions, jobs, if they're managers, if they're in like the industries, if they're in finance, if they're in engineering, if they're in marketing, consulting. We have all of that information. So you can go to your university page and say that I want a job at Google, and I went to the University of California in Berkeley. I can see that there's 1,800 people that either work or have worked at Google, and I can even see how I'm connected. I mean, I've been working for a while, and I know a lot of people in San Francisco, so I do have, some first degree and second degree connections, but also I can start drilling down in that university page. And what if you find, so say Google's a company I want to look for. This other graphic I'm showing you is I can even pull up Google in LinkedIn is a company, and they have a company page. So this is, before LinkedIn, how would I know what it's like to work, at a company like Google? Now, pretty much there's over 7 million companies that have a company page on LinkedIn, and they fill this out. They list, a lot of them put their jobs that are open. They also maybe put videos and what it's like to work at their company, and they even have testimonials from employees. So this is a really great way to really see what it could be like working at that company, different types of jobs that are open, and even a way to even to drill down and see what types of positions there are and what it could be like at that company. So this is a really good way to visit these organizations, see if you're connected to anyone who works there or has worked there. Maybe even some of your classmates had an internship there last summer, and because you connect with them on LinkedIn, you could see that they worked at Google. You could, ask them, hey, do you mind telling me what it's like to work there? So these are really great ways to leverage everything here on LinkedIn in terms of university pages and the company. And also visiting the university page, you can actually see people's profiles. So that's where you can even pull up someone's profile and send them a message or ask to connect with them and say, do you mind talking to me about your experience at Google? And another piece here, looking for jobs. And we have, I'd love for everyone to bookmark this or write it down, linkedin.com/student jobs. This will take you immediately to all of the jobs that we have listed, entry-level jobs and internship postings on LinkedIn. You're able to search by job role, review postings from featured companies, and you can even apply for positions, and the employer will also, once you apply, they're going to be able to see your LinkedIn profile. So they're going to see exactly who you are. So for example, this is the home page, and I just pulled a quick search on San Francisco engineering and internships, and there's 165 positions, internship positions in the San Francisco Bay Area for engineering internships. So I can right here view that position and then go ahead and apply for it and find out more. You can also sort it by entry-level positions, so positions that are looking for entry-level people right out of school. So our platform really allows you with the student job portal, you don't have to sift through all the thousands of jobs of maybe people that are, they're looking for people that have lots of experience. We even drill it down a lot further and refine it to internships and even entry-level positions that these companies are looking for people to fill those positions. So you've started building your network. You've gone to your university page. You've looked to see, what jobs there are, what companies or people that in my school that what companies that they're working in. I'm going to go and actually look for positions. One other way that I see a lot of people are leveraging LinkedIn is they're actually following influencers or following these key people that we at LinkedIn have identified as people that influence the business world, whether it's Richard Branson to Jack Welch from GE to Arianna Huffington to lots of other people, to even from an LGBT perspective, Heather Heil, she's CEO, founder of PathBright, which is a huge company, and she's very influential, went to Yale. She's actually been tapped as an influencer, and she posts content very frequently. So I know that Amy and folks are going to be working and helping at a later date to identify some of these key influencers that you might want to follow from an LGBT perspective. But there's also people from all four core areas of what you're focused on that you could even follow on LinkedIn. And what that does is in your news feed, anytime they publish any really good articles or any types of blogs, that's going to come in your news feed. And it's really great to just leverage those, become that, I like to say an educated consumer, know what's going on and being said by those key top people that are influencing the types of, function or career that you want to have. And the next piece here is, updating your status early and often. You know, I like to post updates to my network at least a few times a week. You know, hopefully once a day, but a few times a week. You know, this was last week. We our Out It In group at LinkedIn volunteered at a nonprofit, and I posted a photo there of all of us. And you know, that got by the time this went out, it got read by, like, I think over 400 people saw it. I had a lot of comments, and a lot of people, you know, liked the article. But this is a really great way to, you know, be thoughtful about what you share, things things that you're proud of, maybe any articles you found, because once you start, you know, building up your network, you can be seen as that thought leader, and people will know who you are and the value that you have to bring. So, you know, again, I recommend, different than Facebook, right? Facebook is where you're going to be a lot more personable and so forth, or personal. This is from a more, you know, think about it more of a building up your professional brand of the status updates that you're posting or sharing. So I wanted to leave you with 5 things to avoid on LinkedIn. You know, number 1 speaks for itself. Have that professional photo. Not one you're out at a club, you know, you're surrounded by all your friends and so forth. Have a really good professional photo. Avoid cliches, and especially like in your summary, words like creative, extensive experience, team player. I mean, that shows up on so many different profiles. It's almost become, like it says here, almost meaningless. So, you know, think about different words that you can add in your summary that really speak to who you are and the value you have, that aren't going to be used as much. Because when recruiters and people go and do searches in LinkedIn, they do put keywords in there, and 9 times out of 10, they're not going to put team player and creative. They might use other words. Personalize that connection request. You know, this is what it looks like, number 3, if you just click connect and don't personalize it. Post status updates that, you know, avoid posting status updates that aren't professional. Like this example, my dinner was amazing last night, and showing a plate of your food. Yeah, save that for Facebook or Twitter, not for LinkedIn. Granted, you know, that looks like a pretty great meal, but you know, is a recruiter going to want to see that you know, are healthy and eat a great meal? No, they're going to want to see a really good article that you post. And then, you know, avoid asking your professional contacts for a job. This is really where you want to network. Request informational interviews. Ask for a brief phone conversation to seek their job search advice. So just don't ask for that job. Give them reason to also you know, be able to have that conversation to seek out the job that you want. So here is the last piece of where you can visit students.linkedin.com to, you know, make your profile recruiter ready, see where your alums work, review job hunting tips for new grads. You know, you can apply for awesome jobs just for students, and additional job tips. So the students.linkedin.com, save that one as well. The job portal is a link to that, but this will automatically point you to all of this information that's specifically designed for you, whether you're in school or you're just as a new grad, to really help you from a job perspective. So that is basically what I wanted to cover with everyone. I guess I wanted to, I don't know how you wanted to go, Amy, if you guys have any questions that people wanted to ask of me or anything like that. If you got any questions through chat.
I think we do have a few questions that just came in. One of the question is, how do you recommend organizing the different sections on your LinkedIn profile?
That's a great question. I would actually suggest, and we do have a tip sheet within that students.linkedin.com about your profile specifically, but I would actually have a summary, and then I would put your education next, and then go down and then put leadership responsibilities, and then your experience. But I would definitely, especially since some of you, you know, I think your summary is going to be a really great, you know, story about yourself, and then your education next. One thing I just wanted to mention about the summary, you know, don't write a novel. Keep it about 2 to 3 short paragraphs. Don't make it too long, because people don't want to, you know, scroll down. But yeah, I would put your education next. Those, you know, key projects you've worked on, leadership, and then, you know, your experience.
Great, and I think Brandon may have some more questions for you.
Sure.
Sure, yeah, thank you, Beth. The questions, a handful of questions have been rolling in. I'm going to save some of them for our panel representing the four different different career tracks, but I'll share at least one or two of them now with you. Let's see, these questions are more about an LGBT experience. I think I might hold those for the rest of the panel. But one question that came in has to do with, let's see, with tailoring profiles for particular employers or industries. And the student wonders how much tailoring he or she should really do on their profile. In other words, a resume might have a great deal of tailoring, and you might be able to submit a single resume to some employers and a separate resume with a slightly different focus for other employers. For students who aren't sure exactly where they want to work just yet, how do you suggest they hedge and navigate that, and how would you suggest, how much tailoring would you suggest?
Great, that's a really great question here, and another piece I can point you to as well, and that's students@linkedin.com. There's a one-pager tip sheet titled Tailoring Your LinkedIn Profile to Your Goals. So that's probably going to answer a lot of those questions, but I think it really goes down to you know, just adding in all of your, the leadership experience, the volunteer, the positions you have, and it doesn't have to, when I've interviewed people, it's been, maybe they don't want to necessarily go in sales, or they don't know exactly where they want to go, but they know that they want to join LinkedIn. They know that they want to work here. And it's really, I wasn't looking for someone that absolutely wanted to be in a sales career, right? Or someone that wanted to be in a marketing career. I was looking to hire someone that was really well-rounded. This is their first position out of school. I want to look at someone that's going to be a leader, that's demonstrated leadership, that's demonstrated that they've had, gotten along with teams, that maybe they have some diverse experience, things like that. So I think it's just really highlighting, not having to necessarily tailor, I want a job as a financial analyst, but maybe I'm looking for a career in finance, somewhere that I'm able to grow, be able to work on cross-functional teams and things like that, making it a little bit more broader. But that tip sheet is in there about tailoring your LinkedIn profile to your goals that might give a little bit more information. So hopefully that was helpful.
Cool. Let's see, there are a number of other questions that have trickled in. I think it might be wiser to save these questions for our panel. So I'll turn it back to Amy, but I wanted to say thank you, Beth, and thank you for an excellent, a really great presentation with a lot of very clear and specific tips that I think our students can turn into actionable to-dos for themselves in the near term. And I wanted to conclude this portion of the event by just sort of saying, I think everyone feels after this past weekend and the momentous Supreme Court decision that it's a really historically great time to be LGBT, and that's not true for everybody, and there's still a lot that we have to do. But by and large, it feels like a very safe and positive time to be LGBT. And in as much as LinkedIn is a good example of this, I hope students come away realizing there are ways we can leverage our LGBT identities really positively to get our careers off on the right track, and to recognize the extent to which that this differs from even just a few years ago, where a decade ago, a lot of the minds who are on this call would have been fixed on how do I conceal my LGBT identity on my social media presence, and I wanted to acknowledge the change that's occurred, and the extent to which right now we're taking part in it. So thank you.
Great, and thanks everyone for having me and for those great questions, and good luck to everyone, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and thanks again, Brandon and Amy, for having me today.
Thanks so much, Beth.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, so next we're going to move into our industry panel. So we have representatives here from all four of our conferences, and I'm just going to let them give a brief intro about themselves, their education, what they're doing professionally, and how they're involved with the conferences. So, Arting, do you want to kick us off?
Oh, Arting, you're muted.
Sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. So my name is Artine. I'm with the Alpha Undergrad Business Conference. I'm the conference director. I graduated from UC Berkeley, so go Bears. Really happy that Beth mentioned Berkeley. I'm currently working as an investment banking analyst in the Mergers and Acquisitions Group at JP Morgan, where I am right now taking this call. And previous involvement in OUBC or Alpha Undergrad in general includes I was previously sponsorship director and mentorship director for Alpha Undergrad.
Awesome, thanks so much. And next we have Justin from OUTC.
Hey, I'm Justin Brukop. I'm currently the conference director for OUTC. I studied material science at MIT and then went on to, now currently I'm a data scientist at a company called DataSift, and we're a platform for streaming and filtering data. So yeah, previously I was sponsorship director for OUTC and I've been involved for a little while now.
Thanks, Justin. Next we have Logan from OUEC.
You got it. Hi, everyone. I'm Logan Trapito. So I'm sponsorship director of OUEC, which is our new engineering conference, which we're very excited to be kicking off this year. My academic background is I have a master's and bachelor's in bioengineering. I'm currently working in life sciences management consulting at Accenture. I'm very excited to meet all of you in the coming months.
Thanks, Logan. Now it's Lucas from OUMC.
Hi, everyone. I am the conference director for the Alpha Undergraduate Marketing Conference, a new conference we're organizing this October. I'm an account manager for the mobile marketing team at Twitter, and I attended NYU. Before being part of the marketing conference, I was on the sponsorship team and the admissions team for the technology conference, which is hosted at Twitter.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. So we're going to start off with our first question, which is, can you give some examples of things students might highlight on their LinkedIn profiles to appeal to employers in your industry? Feel free to kick it off, or we can go in the same order with the introduction.
I guess I can kick it off for OUEC. So if you're an engineering student and you're looking to try and figure out how to customize your LinkedIn profile, things to highlight. You want to highlight your research achievements if you're interested in going into research. Also, your academic projects. A lot of times, your engineering curriculum will include great group work projects, and you can highlight leadership aspects of those projects in your LinkedIn. And of course, any professional or summer internship experience that you have. Those are great opportunities for you to highlight.
Yeah, so the tech industry is very similar to that, since it kind of spans a gamut of highly technical to product management to design. So project experience is really a must. Anything that you've collaborated on, but then also tech industry cares very much about kind of passions and passion projects. So if you can list very clearly what it is that motivates you in your professional life, that can get you much more relevant hits on your LinkedIn.
I think with regards to business, I think so for OUBC specifically, we look at investment banking, consulting, as well as professional services. I would say definitely include your SAT as well as your GPA. I think sort of with the amount of volume of students that sort of apply to these jobs, sometimes it's a lot easier as a first filter to look at these statistics, but also in addition to what everyone else has already mentioned, leadership skills as well as past relevant internships I think are very, very helpful. In addition to sort of highlighting, awards. For example, I think a lot of people might do case competitions at their school, or if you've won an award related to something in the industry you're applying to. I think all those things can make you stand out. So I would highlight those for sure.
Since marketing touches so many different industries, there's really no prescribed collection of things you need to show in a potential employer on LinkedIn. I think what's valuable to know is that marketing touches technology, it touches on big group ideas, it touches on storytelling. So whatever you're passionate about, you're going to be able to find a niche in the marketing industry, particularly big group projects, showing that you were part of something from the beginning all the way to the end, whatever that success metric is. Also technology, things like knowing SQL or C++ or Python. or if you've ever had any experience with Salesforce or AdSpy, any of those services through any kind of internship is really valuable for an employer to say, just knowing that you've dipped your toes into one of those platforms.
Thanks so much for sharing your insights, everyone. Our next question is, what are some examples of topics someone in your industry might follow and read about on LinkedIn?
All right, so kick it off. For engineering, I think it really depends what you're interested in. There's a lot of different fields in engineering, so there are groups on LinkedIn where you can prescribe to learn about different updates within each of those fields, say oncology, for example. You can also join other professional groups, for example. That's another great way to learn about updates and hear about what's going on in those news feeds.
For marketing, I think it's valuable to know what other players in the market are doing. There are a few core marketing agencies that sort of lead the industry, and they use certain tech platforms to support them. But if you follow things like the Cannes Lions and those awards that are given out, or things like TechCrunch and Adweek that sort of lead the way in talking about a new, interesting ad campaign, knowing about those is going to really put you ahead.
I think with regards to business, things that I would recommend following is sort of just everyday news. I think with regards to if you apply to banking, consulting, or professional service, or even private equity and hedge funds, staying on top of the markets and especially sort of big deals that are happening within the industry of your choosing is really, really important. And I think also if you have a particular interest in a certain industry, say you want to eventually maybe make the jump from investment banking or consulting into the buy side, which is private equity, following that industry and kind of getting ahead and knowing the lingo and sort of how people do things differently there would also put you ahead. So I think sort of following the news and digging deeper into the industry is the way to go.
Yeah, and from a tech perspective, it's kind of an interesting mashup of the engineering and business answers, I think. One of the biggest things about the tech industry is that you have to decide, am I trying to get in on the business side of tech, or am I trying to get in on the very technical software development side? And so we have kind of product roles, we have data analyst roles, and we also have software development. So really identifying experts in the field that are in the specific area that you want to get into are probably your most valuable method of finding it. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, then probably following really influential entrepreneurs and then reading TechCrunch every day are probably two of the best ways to stay on top of everything.
So can you each give us an example of a time when using LinkedIn to find and connect with individuals have helped you personally?
I can go. So I mentioned previously that it's really helpful to sort of stay on top of an industry, whether you're currently in it or if you're looking to make a jump into it. So for me, currently in investment banking, I was interested in breaking into the private equity and hedge fund industry. And I think coming from a West Coast school, breaking into a lot of these firms that are predominantly in the East Coast, it was a little bit harder to sort of just use student alumni as well as sort of the Berkeley network. And so for me, I would sort of target the firm I was interested in and then see which among sort of second and third degree connections that I had, usually friends that are currently in the bank or friends that I've made here, and sort of contact my friend to be like, hey, I think you know this person that I would love to kind of get to know their firm a little bit, learn a little bit more about the culture there. Do you mind putting me in touch with them? And I think that actually gave me a very good edge sort of in the interview process, because in the sort of private equity space, it's a little bit less transparent than when you're recruiting for investment banking or consulting. So that helped me a lot with landing my job.
For me, I actually got my job through LinkedIn by kind of updating my profile pretty religiously, and then I was actually reached out to by an old by an alumni from my school because he found the exact skill set that he needed and then used that connection to kind of recruit me. So what's nice about the tech industry is that they're very hungry for raw talent. So if you kind of portray yourself pretty honestly, there's a great chance that that recruiters will reach out to you.
Yeah, so in my personal experience, I've definitely been able to leverage LinkedIn for recruiter contacts, especially after being in the professional industry for a little while. You definitely get the chance to network with recruiters who are interested in finding candidates for open positions. And then also just a second what Arting was speaking about, you can really use LinkedIn and leverage it very well with your network that you already have. So for example, if you want to get some information about what an opportunity experience is like, or what a certain position at a company is like, that's another great way to leverage that tool.
I've been in the position where I've been the recruiter in situations like this. In my old company, that was a small startup. Finding technology talent and business talent is pretty difficult sometimes. So using LinkedIn is sort of an open inbox where I know that generally people who are looking for new careers or are making transition or getting ready to leave school are probably going to be really open to an internship or me reaching out depending on the subject and sort of the name attached to my profile, depending on what company I'm represented. So those candidates that had really explicit details in their profiles were very easy to reach out to and very easy to hunt down. I could pretty much go to, let's say, MIT and look for someone who had a particular set of skills and target them and say, hi, I have this opening, you should reach out, instead of having, expecting that they'll eventually get a notification from some job board.
All right, and our final question before we open it up to Q&A is, do you have any recommendations for groups to join or influencers to follow on LinkedIn?
I follow a couple Arting, I'll let you go.
No, go.
I follow a couple of different influencers whenever I'm on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn at work, and a couple of them that are really interesting are Tim Brown. Well, he's the CEO of a design marketing innovation agency called IDEO, and he always posts really interesting articles I think are really informative and not necessarily apply to just marketing, but I think that he has this sort of real-world view on how design can affect your campaigns and your projects to make things really helpful. The other is David Edelman, who is he's involved in digital marketing practice at McKinsey, and his articles are specifically about marketing and how ad tech has changed the marketing industry for the better, in his opinion, and how targeting and interesting creative approaches to getting a message out have changed the industry for the better.
So when I was in school, I did a lot of work with SWE, which is Society of Women Engineers, and I've continued my work with them through being able to basically participate and then also check in on updates in the SWE community that's on LinkedIn. So if you're in any professional groups currently in school, you should definitely look into how to stay in touch with them after you graduate or once you move into an internship or after you finish your degree.
Interestingly for tech, I don't think that there is a general one be-all best person to follow. That being said, a couple of general influencers that I follow are Guy Kawasaki, who's been involved in the tech industry for a very long time. He kind of stems a bit more of the marketing side. And then Jeff Weiner, who's actually the CEO of LinkedIn. He's very prolific on LinkedIn and can generally source other things. Once you get more specialized, though, that's when you can get some even better value from LinkedIn. So I follow people like DJ Patil, who's the chief data scientist of the U.S. government, and things of that nature, just because that's my specialty.
So I think for business, it could be pretty broad. So for example, I personally follow Angela Arendas, who just joined Apple, and she used to work at Burberry, and I think her articles are very, very interesting. In addition to that, I like following, sometimes they have these interesting columns that I think provide pretty good perspective, whether that's applied only to business or to other industries as well. One I actually really, really enjoyed reading was If I Was 22. And you have a lot of CEOs or people that are in very senior positions in their industry talk about what they would have done if they were back, when they were 22 years old. And I think you can get a lot of advice and wisdom and perspective from that. And so for me, I like following specific columns like that. But I think if you just go to like a specific section in LinkedIn, I would follow Angela, and I would follow, for example, I think Jack Welch is quite interesting too, and he used to be the chairman of GE.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to pass it over to Brandon now for our Q&A for the panel. So, Brandon.
Cool, thanks, Amy. And just as a reminder, so we've got a bunch of questions, actually a medium-length list of questions that students have already submitted. But a reminder that if you have additional questions, like it's not too late, please email them as we talk to info@outforundergrad.org, and we'll try and get your questions answered as well. I'm going to synthesize these and combine a couple into one. We had two different questions about cold contacting, or sort of cold calling, or sort of cold reaching out. In other words, reaching out to folks on LinkedIn whom you don't know personally, but whom you found on LinkedIn. One student asks, "Can I really just reach out to people at firms I want to work at? Will they return my message?" I might ask that question, like, will they be willing to be in touch? Would be an interesting question. And a second student asks, "What is it reasonable to expect from the person you reach out to? What can I expect as a response?" I'll put that question out there. I don't know if everyone will respond, but anyone feel free to jump in, or I will cold call one of you.
I can jump in on this one. So I get a fair amount of requests from individuals asking about working at JP Morgan, how it's like working as an investment banking analyst, and keep in mind these are usually people I have zero connection to. And I think the trend is, in the beginning, I was very willing to, be helpful, but I think sort of as time went on, I've been sort of less open to sort of cold emails where I have no connection to them whatsoever. And so I think if you're going to reach out to somebody and ask a question or want to learn more about their industry, try to find some sort of commonality, or do what I did, which is go through a second or third degree connection. Because if you reach out to someone and they have like a mutual friend in common with you, I would say 99% of the time they will respond, just because you have that in common, and it seems sort of as a return of favor in a way. And so that's my advice. So for me, when I reach out to somebody, so for example, if I reach out to somebody that is also in the Out for Undergrad network, but I don't know them personally, I can say, "Hey, I used to do XYZ in Out for Undergrad, and love to learn more about your experience XYZ." And I think usually people in Out for Undergrad is very willing to help, also because it's such a tight-knit and excellent group of individuals that have all kind of gone through the conferences together. But it really sort of depends on the industry and depends on the individual you reach out to.
The beauty of LinkedIn is that it shows you right there how far that person is connected or disconnected from you. If they're a second degree connection, then you know that you share something in common, some person or some group, and that's been really valuable just for growing a marketing conference, for finding individuals that I want to reach out to for my career. And really, it's not about sending a direct message to Joe because Joe Joe knows Tina and you know Tina. I would suggest reaching out to Tina and saying, "Hi, I see that you know Joe. Do you mind writing an intro? I'd love to learn about the company. I'd love to learn about what they're working on." Use those connections. It's right there for you. And I think to lean on your friends is so much more powerful than to lean on someone feeling charitable that Monday or Tuesday when they get your message.
The other thing with kind of cold email or cold messaging is that you can generally get a pretty good read of how receptive someone will be based on their profile. A lot of people will actually list out their kind of contact me about or things like that. If you're cold emailing someone that has a very kind of bare bones, the absolute minimum of what they need for a LinkedIn profile, there's a good chance that they're not really engaging in that community as strongly as someone who maybe has everything listed out, has their passions listed out, and has an open kind of email acceptance for their profile. So just analyze what they're putting out there.
Yeah, and everyone's going to manage their profile a little differently. So some people are going to be very responsive, and others may not be. So just always keep that in mind.
I observed that to varying degrees across industries, Arching is right, that it really does help in reaching out to someone to have some pre-existing reason or or excuse or connection worth connecting on, and that will at first sound unsatisfactory to a lot of students, particularly students who say, "Well, I joined this I joined this network because I'm looking for ways to connect. I don't have a lot of friends who work at X or Y investment bank or in Silicon Valley or whatever, but I'm looking for a way to connect to them. And to those students, let me say, the best idea, I think, is literally to use LinkedIn to find out for undergrad alumni working in the industry of your choice or working in a company that you are specifically interested in. And if you can't find an out for undergrad alumni, search around on LinkedIn for the company you're looking for or the topic you're looking for and keywords like LGBT or gay or lesbian or transgender or bisexual or any of these kinds of things, and actually reach out and connect for that reason. I think a lot more people will likely be willing to get back in touch with you and have a conversation about what it's like to be gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender or any or all of those at the company that they work at. That's an easier ask and it's more sympathetic than I'd love to get in touch because I want to work at your company and I need you to hear about me. That kind of thing is a little bit of a turnoff across industries, but most especially probably so in the business context. I will say very specifically with specific respect to technology, I think that if there is an unusual coding language or skill that you have, getting in touch with people who are not the very top person in the world, but professional people who work in that obscure niche, knowing that and reaching out and finding out about what's going on in that with that particular technology is something that I observe people to be very interested in. I know I ran a startup for a while, and we wrote some of our technology in a particular framework, and folks reached out to us, and we did get back to them, and like had conversations about where that language was going. Cool. Okay, so I'm DJing these questions. I will move on to the next set of questions. There were 2.5 related questions about outing oneself or including information about one's LGBT identity on one's LinkedIn profile. And one student works at an LGBT center on that student's campus, but is nervous about, or rather, prefers not to indicate so on a public profile, but wishes to disclose that in private ways out of various concerns. Another student says that the student is not fully out, in particular to the student's parents, and worries that outing the student self on LinkedIn will be an act of public outing, and wonders what to do. Can one or more of you comment on how students should approach LinkedIn if either they have concerns about coming out or aren't fully out or don't want to reveal publicly aspects of their LGBT identity?
So what's interesting is that LinkedIn is inherently a rather private social network, and you can set your privacy settings so that only certain people can reach out to you. For the specific instance where you're not yet out to your parents, if you have high enough profile settings, it's highly unlikely that a recruiter will kind of find you outing yourself on LinkedIn and then tell your parents, right? Or out you publicly. Because unlike Facebook, they can't kind of like auto-join you to groups and things like that. And then the other thing is that if you are on LinkedIn and your parents try to friend you or add you on LinkedIn, just say like, hey, this is my professional account and I'm trying to only add contact within the industry. That's a great way of avoiding that potentially awkward situation. But at its very core, it's a bit of a risk analysis, right? You are putting that information out there, and for even considering it, that's kind of a very exciting moment for you as you kind of come into yourself as an individual. So embrace it. I would hope. Don't worry, but I understand there are lots of extenuating circumstances around coming out. So definitely also feel free to reach out to anyone in O4U specifically to help advise on a specific situation, because it can be very difficult to navigate.
So I think there's two folds to this. So if you're someone who's already out and you're pretty comfortable sort of being out, whether that's professionally or personally, then having sort of LGBT related organizations or out for undergrad, etc., is a great way to sort of identify yourself as LGBT, but also to make sure, you know, whether you're approaching a company or if a company approaches you, that that information is already out for them to see. And so it's in a way a validation of knowing that that employer is LGBT friendly. So for example, if I have someone reach out to me, I usually do check out their profile, and if I see LGBT related things, like if it's like a cold email, I would probably respond. And I make it very, very clear to identify myself as part of Out for Undergrad, because I want students to reach out to me regarding like investment banking, regarding whatever industry, school related. I want you to reach out to me. Like I want to help you. So therefore, for me personally, identifying that is my way of communicating that, but also communicating to other individuals, whether it's future employers or recruiters, that this is a part of me. This is very important. I want this to be out in the open. And so sort of this is more speaking towards individuals that are out, but I'll let others speak for people that might not be as comfortable with that. But that's sort of how I identify and how I would put aspects of my LinkedIn.
If you don't feel comfortable listing anything specifically about being a member of the queer community on your profile, the beauty of LinkedIn is that if you attend an O4U conference, if you go to one of our events, you will build, let's say, a connection there to 100 or more students and employers or employees of companies who are LGBT. That's all visible for recruiters. If you know how to look, you can see if someone's a member of the community, if they're an ally, or if they are LGBT. When I'm looking at a potential employer or someone who I want to come join me at Twitter, I can look at their profile and say, okay, there are 14 connections that we have in common, and a good number of them are in San Francisco or New York or DC, and a lot of them I know are involved in O4U in some way. That may not be something that people are privy to if they are not a member of our community or an ally of our community, but it is there. So they don't necessarily have to say it for it to be evidence. I think the same applies on Twitter, the same can apply on Facebook. So you don't have to feel the pressure to blatantly say, I'm a member of this community, to necessarily gain the benefits from it.
Definitely. It's a very personal decision, especially if you're not out to all, in all respects of your current community. And remember, there's a lot of different places where you can discuss your support of LGBT initiatives and your own work within that community. For example, I listed on my resume. I also discuss it in my interviews. So there's a lot of different outlets to discuss it and to show your contribution.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go ahead and say this definitively. If you're not, if you aren't out and aren't comfortable with the fact of your LGBT status being out there on the internet for other people to find, don't come out on LinkedIn. Like, your coming out is your experience that you own, and maybe not obviously, but I will encourage anyone who is thinking about it to consider coming out, and there are folks at O4U and elsewhere who'd be happy to chat with you about that. But the fact is, it's your experience, and you shouldn't out yourself until and unless you feel ready and you feel that that's right for you. However, if you are someone who is LGBT and want to get the most out of LinkedIn and you aren't going to out yourself, the onus is therefore on you to use LinkedIn in all the other possible ways to turn it to your advantage, given the advantage of being a member of this incredible and diverse and high-performing community. There are people out there who work at JP Morgan, as you see on this call, and who work in Silicon Valley and who work in marketing and engineering, and want to talk to you about what it's like to be LGBT in all these companies. So fine, don't out yourself publicly, but do reach out to some of those folks and have a private conversation with them, and you'll see it will be a great launching point for other conversations that'll produce value. The next question I'll go to is sort of the opposite of this question. It's I don't work at a gay or lesbian center, at an LGBT center on my campus, and I haven't done LGBT-specific, I'm paraphrasing here, LGBT-specific community activity on my campus. How can I out myself, and how can I indicate my LGBT status on my LinkedIn profile?
The Out for Undergrad conference is a great way to out yourself on your resume, on your LinkedIn. I did that. I put my participation in Out for Undergrad when I attended, and that was my easiest way of kind of coming out.
LinkedIn has a volunteer section that's very easy to fill out. Just putting the name, let's say, the Trevor Project, that you were an usher at a GLAAD event, or that you phone called for HRC during election time. That's also an easy way for people to hunt you down through that route.
Cool. To Two students asked about firms that are not LGBT friendly, and one student wonders whether it is worth including LGBT specific content on the student's LinkedIn profile if he's considering applying to such firms, and another student asks whether the situation is the same internationally and whether international firms take the same positive attitude toward such signaling as the firms we've been talking about.
No company becomes LGBT friendly without employee support. So every company in America and across the world can become an LGBT-friendly company. It takes an initiative from employees within the company oftentimes. I think the content of the question is, if I'm applying to those companies, should I censor myself? I believe that's sort of the goal.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
In that case, if you feel like that's going to be something that's dangerous to your career, and those are companies that you're very excited to work for, then I would censor my profile in a way. If that's your particular goal right now, and then go through an easier process once you become an employee or an intern of then reaching out to a potential mentor or your manager and asking about these opportunities. I don't think you should endanger your career, but you also don't have to be very blatant, like we said before. There are other ways to show that you're LGBT to those who are looking for it without specifically saying I'm part of this community.
I agree, and I can understand some sensitivity here. Particularly potentially around international firms. I will say, by observation, having worked with some of now a great many of the largest employers in the world in the context of assembling our conferences, I would be just so that you know, I would be very surprised to learn of a major company that is global in scale, that for whom LGBT status is still other than a positive thing. That said, I agree with Lucas's answer to the question, which is if that opportunity really is something that is important to you, then don't risk it. Again, but if that's a company that has American offices, I think you should try and talk to someone who works at one of their American offices who identifies on LinkedIn as LGBT. And I could understand not wanting to signal to a recruiter, hey, I'm LGBT. Could you put me in touch with someone at your firm who is, so I could talk to them, which, by the way, is a normal thing at most companies to ask in your recruiting process. But I can understand if you feel that that's too sensitive, fine. But for that reason, please use LinkedIn to find someone else and find a reason to connect with that person. And during a private conversation, ask what it's like. And you may find yourself surprised at the positivity with which LGBT status is now viewed at that firm. It might be possible that it's not, but I think test your hypothesis before you assume it to be true that the company you have in mind is hostile toward LGBT people. Cool. Another question, this is a fun one and a fair question. Do recruiters and interviewers look me up first on Facebook and Twitter too? How guarded do I need to be in my social media presence more broadly?
Twitter.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'll let you go first.
Go ahead. It's okay.
So Twitter does not require a lot of personal information, and Facebook has gotten to the point where it's very easy to hide your profile. These are things that you should do on Facebook particularly, is hide information from people who are not your immediate friends. And Twitter, you can be completely anonymous. So I think that there is not the same magnifying glass applied to those social media platforms. You can have an identity on one, you can hide most content on the other, as same with Instagram and Pinterest, I imagine. But yes, I think that what you put on your LinkedIn will be often very visible. I don't think the level of privacy is there because you want people to be able to find you and hunt you down, or reach out to you, not necessarily hunt you down.
So for me personally, when I'm sort of ticking through resumes, especially if they're from Berkeley, and especially if they're from the business school, I'm 2 years removed now from college, but during the first year when I was pulling out resumes and sort of considering interviewing people, I would likely look them up on Facebook, see if we have mutual friends, and do a little diligence there too. But maybe I'm just a little bit more thorough than most recruiters if they are sort of interviewing people from their school. But for example, there have been individuals where I might not have heard the best things reputationally, and I would ask somebody that I know is a good friend based on what's in the friend list on Facebook and be like, hey, what do you think of this person? They applied to this job, XYZ. So that is a mode of being able to do your diligence and double check on a candidate. So, I mean, you could hide your friend list if you want, but I do think people use those platforms, and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that is fair game, and people do look at them. So I would just be extra careful on that.
Yeah, I think it's good to get into the practice of just editing what you post, and of course making sure that there's no embarrassing photos or anything like that. Again, those platforms are still public. You can use privacy settings in most respects for both Twitter and Facebook. But it's just good practice, especially as you start to seek full-time opportunities in your industry.
Cool. Well, those were the key questions that came in from students, at least so far. If you have any others, it's not too late. But maybe I'll open it to the panelists to see if any of you thinks there are any topics that we have missed or should cover for students' sake before we turn back to Amy.
I think we covered a good amount of discussion today, Brendan, and everyone. Thank you for joining the call, for those of you that could make it, and looking forward to meeting everyone soon.
Great. Well, thank you to our panelists, and also to our student audience for asking such good questions. Amy, I'll pass it back to you, and I'll just say thank you and good night to all the students, and like everyone else here, I'm really looking forward to meeting as many of you as I can during the September and October conferences.
All right, I guess we're going to wrap up our webinar right now. Thank you so much to Brandon, Martin, Justin, and Lucas for joining us. I'm sure you provided the students with a lot of valuable information, and this will be recorded, so if you missed it or you want to rewatch some parts of it, it will be available on our YouTube channel. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we look forward to seeing you at our conferences.